Hey everyone, hey, Brian Neff here with Retirement Hustle. Today we want to talk about the EIDL Advance program inside the new bill. And let me pull it over here real quick. And I really want to highlight some sections out of this. There's a lot of confusions going on with this. And so let's go inside the bill here. And hopefully everyone can see the screen here. So on page 2184 of the 5,593 page bill that was just passed in December, Section 331 talks about the targeted EIDL Advance for small business continuity, adaptation, and resiliency. Even I can't even say it. I don't even know how they spelled it, right? But let's get started. This program is for continuing the EIDL program with the SBA today that also includes those of us in the small business that receive the EIDL loan or advance in the CARES Act. And it's quite different from the previous program. And today we're going to explain it because we're seeing a lot of videos are competing back and forth on YouTube here talking about this program. And here's the way we read the bill as far as the facts inside of it. So let's go through there. First part of this, let's briefly cover this. This is where in the CARES Act, where if you were a small business, you were able to get the EIDL loan or the EIDL Advance program. And that advance program, remember they kept saying it was at $10,000 per business that signed up. All you had to do is check the box when you applied for the EIDL loan, you can get up a $10,000 grant. Well, it ends up a month or so later, ends up being that SBA changed it to where it was $1,000 per employee, which was never supposed to be that way. So this time around, supposedly, those that got the grant before, and let's say you had one employee in your business and you got a $1,000 grant, whether you took the EIDL small business loan or not, you still got the grant. Okay. In this one, supposedly, the argument is that some believe that you can get the difference from that 1,000 up to the 10,000. Others believe that it's targeted to low-income communities only. So let's read through the bill and see what it says, and then tell me what you think about it in the comments below. So on Section 331 of this bill, on page 2184 of 5593, I've highlighted these sections. As the targeted EIDL Advance for small business continuity, adaptation, and resiliency. See, I said it better that time. So let's go to Section 2. It talks about a covered entity. So who is this for? Okay, covered entity means an eligible entity that applies for a loan under Section 72 of the Small Business Act during the covered period, including before the date of enactment of this act. So remember, this originally came out in the CARES Act last spring, like March of last year. This bill just passed in late December. So that's Section I. 2 is located in a low-income community. 3 has suffered an economic loss of greater than 30%. And 4 employs not more than 300 employees. So that declares what the entity is supposed to be, right? So let's go down and see what the economic loss pertains to. The term economic loss means with respect to the covered entity. So if you're a covered entity, this applies to you. The amount by which the gross receipts of the covered entity declined during an 8-week period between March 2nd of 2020 and December 31st of 2021 relative to a comparable 8-week period immediately preceding March 2nd, 2020 or during 2019. Now, a lot of the confusion we're seeing out there on the internet today, especially on some of the YouTube channels, is it's by the quarter. And that's not 8 weeks. That's 12 weeks in a quarter. Even the media is saying if you had a comparable quarter in 2019, that you made more money than you did in a comparable quarter of 2020. The bill says 8 weeks. So watch the fine lines of what is actually happening, and hopefully this helps you prepare for this. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit further. Section B, entitlement to full amount. This is the key right here. Really read into the key. A covered entity. Were you a covered entity prior to the enactment of this bill? If you qualified in the first bill inside the CARES Act for the grant or the EIDL loan, you were a covered entity. They've already determined that. So, subject to paragraph 2A, a covered entity, after submitting a request to the administrator that the administrator verifies under subsection C, shall receive a total of $10,000 under section 1110E of the CARES Act, without regard to whether or not the covered entity applied for the loan, whether it was approved or not approved. If you, the covered entity, accepts or accepted the offer, and or Section C, if the covered entity has received a loan under Section 7. So, what does that say? In fine sense, it says verifies. If you were a verified entity, you will receive a total of $10,000, not $1,000 per employee. This was a huge problem, and people are. It's hard to understand this. So, unless they change this before they release the information, which should be any day now, from at the SBA, those should receive up to the total of $10,000, not up to. So, and it doesn't say nothing about $1,000 per employee in here. So, let's go to the next section. Effect of previously received amounts. This is for those of you that received in the previous CARES Act the EIDL grant of $1,000 per employee, or you may have received the full $10,000. Let's go through this. With respect to a covered entity, that means you were approved, that received an emergency grant under Section 1110E of the CARES Act, that was from last March, before the date of enactment of this act. Did you receive an EIDL grant before this bill in December of 2020? That's basically what it's asking. Yes. If you can answer yes to that, the amount of the payment that the covered entity shall receive under this section shall be the difference between $10,000 and the amount of the previous received grant. So, if you were a small business with one employee that received a $1,000 emergency authorized grant during the CARES Act, prior to this new act in December of 2020, you will receive under this subsection the difference between $10,000 and the amount that previously received. The $10,000 minus your previously received $1,000, you've got an additional $9,000 coming in this bill. That's the facts, folks. If the administrator receives a request from paragraph 1 from a covered entity, meaning you have to request it, the administrator shall, not later than 21 days after the date on which you received which the administrator receives the request, perform the verification required. If the administrator under this section verifies that the entity is a covered entity, provide to the covered entity a payment in the amount described in subparagraph A, which was the difference between the $10,000 and the amount previously granted. Folks, this is the bill. If you were not a covered entity during that time frame, you'll get a letter stating that you weren't a covered entity and you don't receive that amount. Folks, this is it. This is the bill. So all the argument back and forth, you see a lot of the clickbait out there on YouTube and everything. Folks, there's a lot of good channels out there that are giving the right information, but there's a lot that aren't giving the right information. Let's go to the bill and read the bill. This is where it's at. Stay tuned for the next update because there's more coming inside this bill. Any updates that's coming as far as time frame or anything like that, make sure you subscribe to the channel and we'll get you hooked up with the right information. And we will read directly from the bill, not what we read in the media. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.